In this orientation video, we're going to take a high-level overview of what's new in Perspective's latest release. Highlights include a look at our new Officer mobile app for use with Dispatch, the addition of a command line within the Dispatch application, from the web portal the ability to use the Request an Officer feature with the new Dispatch application, and a new single sign-on option for accessing all Perspective applications from the launch page. Let's begin with SSO. Single sign-on is a form of login authentication that stores your credentials so you can log into multiple applications such as Perspective, Dispatch, and the dashboard without having to re-enter your information, as long as you have a session token that is still active. In the case of the Perspective iOS app and the new Officer mobile app, you can't share your login credentials across the apps, but you don't have to re-enter your credentials while you have an active session token. To use this functionality, outside of having the new version of Perspective, your organization will require an IDP, or Identity Provider. This is a service that holds your account information and is responsible for creating your SSO session in Perspective. Your IDP and Perspective are connected by inputting information from the IDP into Perspective Service Manager. The actual setup of SSO can get quite detailed and technical, so for more information on SSO, please feel free to visit our customer portal to review our documentation. As well, you can reach out to our support team for assistance on setting this up. Next, we'll take a look at the new command line functionality within the Dispatch application. Near the top of the Dispatch interface, you'll see a small dark blue tab with a right-pointing arrow just above the Messages panel. This is where you can open the command line by clicking on that tab. The command line allows you to perform all of the basic Dispatch functions right from your keyboard. We'll look at this a couple of times to show you how it works. First, by using the example of assigning an officer to a Dispatch task. To start, we need to identify the command. What do we want to do? This can be done in a few ways, by either using the up and down arrows on your keyboard to navigate the list of commands, or once you begin to learn the command names, you can also start to type the name of the command. If typing, just note that you will only see the commands listed that match the characters you enter. If we start with the Assign Task command, we can then see that we can select from the currently unassigned Dispatch tasks. Once selected, we can then choose our officer from the list of available officers. Once all required data has been identified, you'll see an option to use the Shift and Enter to execute the command. Here, we can now see that our officer has been assigned. In another example, we could now indicate that the officer has started the task by selecting the Start Officer command, then select the Assigned Officer option, then select the officer name. And again, once this has been identified, we can use the Shift and Enter to execute the command. This can also be used for larger functions as well, such as creating a dispatch. We can use the new Dispatch command. We can then enter the call code, which will identify the call category of the dispatch. Then the work zone. When it comes to the location, we can select from existing dispatch locations, including indoor locations. But just note, if you do want to stop at a higher level, let's say our Benjamin building, but not specifically floors 1 or 2, we can add a quotation mark after the building to stop at that level. Next, we can add the priority. At this point, we have added all of the details that are required for the creation of the dispatch, so we can now see the Shift and Enter option that would allow us to execute the command and create the dispatch. But we still do have options here to add a description or an initial note as well. So these could be added still prior to using that Shift Enter command, if you want to add that information. It should be noted that it doesn't matter what order you select any of these commands when creating your dispatch. Once all of the required fields do have a value entered, then the Shift Enter command will appear that would allow you to create it. Now let's look at Officer Mobile. This app allows your officers to perform some self-management in terms of bringing themselves on and off duty, seeing the list of tasks that they've been assigned to, indicating when they've started those tasks, arrived on scene, cleared the scene, and more. To log into the app, you must have the appropriate licensing, and an administrator will have had to have created an account for you. Also, you will require the service URL, the business ID if you're a hosted customer, and the database name. Once launched, click on the settings in the top right, and this will allow you to enter those aforementioned details. If you're not aware of what the business ID, the URL, or the database name are, please contact your dispatch administrator for assistance. Tap the back arrow so you can return back to the previous screen and complete the login. Once logged in, one of two screens could appear. If a dispatcher has not already brought you on duty, then you'll see options where you could select your operational zone, team, and call sign. And once selected, you can then bring yourself on duty. If a dispatcher has already brought you on duty, then you'll jump right into the window that we can see now. Your user information will be on the top half of the screen. Below will be a task button, which will indicate the number of already assigned tasks, a messages button indicating how many conversations you have been invited to join or already joined in on, and a profile button where you can update your status, take yourself off duty, and log off the app. After you have been assigned to some tasks, tapping that button will take you to your list. The top half of the screen will display the current task and its status. This could include a timer if there happens to be an RTA associated with the current state. Below are the other tasks that have also been assigned. Each task will display the dispatch number, as well as the location. Tapping the location of a task will open the details in the bottom half of the screen. Here you can see the call category, priority, the dispatcher, and all responding officers that have tasks assigned on the dispatch. Scrolling down a little bit further, we can also see there's a map that will show the dispatch location, and if added, possibly a picture or floor plan image of the location. Tapping the officer mobile icon in the top left corner of the screen will take you back to the previous area. For my current task, we can see the status is currently start. In other words, it's waiting for me to indicate that I've started my task. If I tap this, the task status will change to arrive. While in dispatch, my status is updated to indicate that I'm now en route. Once I arrive on scene, I can tap the arrive. In dispatch, this would indicate that I've arrived on scene. In the app, we can now see a clear option. Once I've completed the task, I can tap on this to indicate that I'm done. And again, this will also update in dispatch to indicate that I've cleared the scene as well. Once I've cleared the task, then the next assigned task will automatically move up into this top half of the screen, and I can repeat what we just saw here as I progress through my task. For this next task, if I tap the location, again, we can see that we can review the dispatch details. Also here, but not looked at earlier, is an actions area. Tapping this will show you additional options for quick data entry. This can include adding logs, adding pictures, or accessing messages. This messages area can be used to see notes on the dispatch. As well, you could use it as an instant messaging between the dispatcher and responding officer. The media option allows you to add pictures from the scene, whether you take a picture with your device or select from an existing picture currently saved somewhere on your device. The logs area allows you to add any known person or organization logs or involvements. These can be manually added by completing the data entry for the person or organization name and involvement type. You can also search your existing Perspective database for persons or organizations and select them if they already have a record in your system. And just below, there's also a notes area where you can add more details as needed. Again, tapping the officer mobile icon in the top left allows you to navigate back to the previous screens. If we now look at the dispatch details, we can see this information that has been updated by the officer. You can continue to progress through the tasks that have been assigned, updating the task status and the logs as we just saw. It should be noted that a dispatcher can update the order of these tasks for you. If this is done, you would see this reflected within the app, including if you had been cleared from a task before you started it. Going back to the main screen and tapping on the profile button, from here you can see you can change your status to indicate if you are going on break or any other state as required. Also from here, you can take yourself off duty and log off the application. If you take yourself off duty, tapping the cancel will act as a log off as well. Another change with version 5.1 is with the addition of the functionality that allows individuals to request officer assistance from the web portal. This feature was available previously for Dispatch Log, but has now been made available for the new dispatch application as well. Ensure that you disable the feature for dispatch log so that you don't see the Request an Officer button twice on the main page. Moving into the Request an Officer for dispatch, here we can see, as with previous configuration, we need to identify which fields should be visible and which should be required. Noting that the location field doesn't appear here, as this is a system required value for the creation of the dispatch. Therefore, the field cannot be adjusted for visibility, nor can you remove the required nature of the field. Next, if you choose to enable the Allow Schedule Officer option, which would allow somebody to make a request for a future date time, then you must enter a name for the scheduled dispatch. When a future date time request is submitted, it will reside on the Schedule panel until that date time request. Then we need to identify the operational zone that this feature will be used for, then the work zone, and in the case of the officer, this is defaulting the name of the call entered by for the dispatch. This is something that is automatically captured by the system when a dispatcher enters a new call. But since this process is creating a dispatch from the web portal, the system doesn't know who this person should be. Therefore, you're going to be selecting someone here to default that value. Individuals making requests will choose from a pre-built list of request types that you'll identify next. These request types are created by selecting from the list of already created dispatch templates. Then, assigning a request type, which is essentially an alias for the template name. This is what people will see and select from. At any point in the future, if there's a need to remove a request type, this can be done from here as well. Once set up, click the Submit button at the bottom of the screen to save your configuration. Now, people with access to your web portal can request an officer for assistance when needed. For more information on these and other changes, please visit our customer portal for documentation on version 5.1.